Hey, everybody, this is Liz from Augusta, and I can truly say that the person we're going to interview today, there's nobody else in all of Augusta Nation that can fit this person's profile. And I will let him introduce himself and where his location is.
My name is Tim Andes, Mike's brother, and we started 4 years ago our location in Mount Vernon, which is about 45 minutes south of the Bellingham shop. And so we started that during COVID. So that's where we're at. And I moved down about a year after I started the location there as general manager, and we moved down to Skagit County.
So let's go way back. And how did it begin that you started lawn care in the first place?
Yeah, so back in the day, way back in the day when I was 13 and Mike was 11, we started, there was a couple in our church that had a property, and they gave us $1,000 up front for the whole year of services at their property. And that gave us the funds to buy all of our equipment. So just simple mower, weed eater, and blower, hand little blower, and we just threw it all into our van at that time. I guess my mom would drive us around. So we basically lived in a neighborhood HOA kind of, and they required people to mow their lawns and keep them looking good. So at 13 and 11, we started pushing our mower around there, being able to walk around, being so young. We put out flyers one time in the mail just in that neighborhood, and we got about 15 or so clients right away. So that was kind of how it started. $1,000 from someone up front, and simple, just bought some stuff, and then slowly grew up. We never made tons and tons of money, but we made enough to support ourselves because my parents didn't really have a lot of money. So me and Mike had to pretty much pay our ways through college and university. So growing up in lawn care, doing lawn care, basically you requires a lot of work ethic and working hard in different weather and things. So me and Mike, we both were fit for that, and we would do it every Saturday, and then do school during the week. So that's kind of how it rolled. Really simple, no systems, no really just paper and pen for invoices, mostly just giving it to the person to save on postage, and really personable. For us, that's kind of what I kind of like. And as you grow a business, it's harder to do that, be personable with the clients. But for us, we kept most of our clients for years and years. Most of them are older, and they really liked having young people, young guys working hard, doing their lawn. So, yeah.
Since you were young and couldn't even drive, you said your mom drove you around some, but did
Yep.
you actually go door to door at all and just say, we would like to mow your lawn, or give them
Mhm.
a price right then? What was your kind of spiel as a kid?
Yeah, so I mean, the big thing was that we were young guys, so that kind of sold us right away. But
Mm.
yeah, like I said, in that neighborhood of about 75 to 100 homes, we would basically be mowing lawns when we put that initial flyer out, and then people would just come up and be like, "Oh, it's so cool that you guys are working," and like, "What do you?" And we would tell them our story, how we're paying for school, and after 2 years, Mike and me were going to college, so they thought that was really cool, especially Mike being like 13 and I was
Mhm.
16. So both of us being super young and going out there being entrepreneurs, it was easy to sell. And then also we were just like lowballing, so $25 for a lawn. So like we weren't making at the time. It seemed like a lot of money, but 25, $30, maybe $50 a lawn, maybe. So yeah, we thought we were making great money. Going down to Bellingham, our biggest job was like I think $100, and we would drive there every 2 weeks for a big construction company. And the guy loved us, but of course he loved us because we were way underbidding what
Dirt
we should
cheap.
have been. Yeah, dirt cheap. So that's kind of, and then showing up, like we would always be there on Saturdays, and we were communicating very well. It was easy to communicate too. We would walk to the people and just tell them, hey, we're not going to be able to get to your lawn. We'll do it Monday, or if we came early on a Friday, we would just let them know, hey, we're going to be gone this weekend. And yeah, it worked out really, really good.
Did
Me
you
and
have
Mike were.
uniforms or any kind of structure from the beginning, or do you just
Uh,
kind of make up
no,
what you were going to do? Nothing like
no,
that.
nope, nothing like that for the first year or so. And then my uncle Daniel has a printing company, and he did print us up some shirts and things. So we did end up wearing green shirts, and Mike cut off the sleeves. I never cut them off, but we would wear green, and then we had purple ones. So we did eventually. That was after I think 2 or so years, 3 years. We started kind of having a uniform. We wouldn't always wear it. There's a picture that Mike, I think, shares, and he's wearing a Hurley black and white shirt with his weed eater over his hand.
Yeah.
So we didn't have uniforms all the time. And we would just walk around the golf course from house to house, basically to be more efficient. So yeah, it was
So
good.
you could say that you guys got business from word of mouth also, because people would watch you work, and they probably never saw you dinking around. You weren't smoking, you weren't
Yep.
fighting. And so you probably got customers just from that too, the quality of people that you were.
Yeah, we didn't pay anything. We didn't do any marketing besides that initial flyer we sent out that Mike made up all the wording and things. And then we sent that out one time. And then from there, it's just people talk. So, and then after a few years, we used an app called Nextdoor, I think, and we put up a post, something that the local neighborhood, and then that helped us kind of go from one level of business to start making a little more money. And that's when I started driving at 16. Being able to drive our little Aerostar van. And yeah, that was an interesting experience.
Yes, exactly. And that van went on to do a lot of great things in a lot of families' lives.
Yep.
Actually, can you share about how you got the van?
Yeah, someone in the church actually had given it to my parents, I believe, just because they needed a vehicle at that time. So they're from Canada, and they gave us a vehicle, and we used it. My parents did, and then I think it went to you guys maybe for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, after, and then we got it back or something. Something happened where we got it back, and so that vehicle blessed a lot of people, my parents especially, to get on their feet financially to get the next vehicle they needed. And then we used it. I want to say 2 years maybe for business, and it stank like crazy.
Yep.
Got mold in it. We used a stick to hold up the back trunk to be able to put our things into it. So yeah, just humble beginnings. And if people are listening and you think you don't have a great setup, we had and we had bags, and we just put grass in, and it stank like crazy. So simple, but it worked.
So you guys must have had an interesting relationship to do this together. And you did the $25 lawn. That means you got $12.50 each. And so how did you organize your little thing? Did you come home? Did you go from door to door and get cash, and then you came home and split everything evenly? Or how did that work out?
Yeah, so basically we did monthly billing. And what we would do is we had, like I said, the paper invoices, and we literally would go to the person's house in the last cut of the month usually, and I would be the one that would hand it to them. To be honest, I did most of the invoicing, and my mom
Okay.
kind of helped too. So Mike didn't really want to do that part. So my part was to fill out the invoice, make sure my mom made sure we'd done all the cuts on the certain days were correct, the dates. And then we would usually hand deliver them to save money, especially when you're younger. And then we mailed some of them. So no email whatsoever. So we didn't email any invoices. So yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what were you both planning to go to school for?
I was going to be a teacher, and we were both going to get our associates because it's free college for 2 years. So me and Mike did the Running Start program. So he was going to be doing doctor. He wanted to be a doctor, medical, something in the medical field. So I was 16, he had 12, or yeah, 16, and he was 12 for like a week, and then he turned 13 when we started doing that for 2 years. And then we both got our high school diplomas and 2-year associates. We graduated at the same time. So, and my wife actually graduated with us too at the same college, same time.
What are the odds of that? That's pretty
Yeah.
neat. Yeah. So today you are both in the lawn care business. So did you get your degree to teach,
Yeah.
and did you start teaching?
Yeah, I did that. I went to the university right across, like 10 minutes from the college, Western Washington, and one of the greatest, hardest teaching programs, Woodring. And we went through that, did our schooling, and we did use that teaching degree for 2 years. First, I was a caregiver slash landscape, kind of took care of a guy's property. Older gentleman, had a lot of money, and was very kind to me, and he let me take care of his properties, take care of him, drive him around. So that was an interesting part in my career. I got to see older people and the end of life. I got to see him pass away. But then right when he was going to pass away, like a month or two before, I started teaching. So for 2 years, I taught elementary education. grade 2 and 3 in Canada, actually. And so it was a private Christian school that I actually attended for many years, and Mike did too. And my goal was to always be a teacher and teach in a Christian environment. I believe that's what the Lord had wanted me to do. And I believe down the road, maybe I'll do that. But after 2 years, it wasn't sustainable, to be honest. And with the Canadian exchange rate, taxes, blah, 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 at the end of the day, your income is super low. And to have a child come and then want to have more kids was not going to happen at all. So with that added stress and things, right before COVID happened, we quit working as a teacher. And a couple months later, Mike wanted me to start a location for a Mount Vernon location, which was about 50 minutes away. So yeah, it was a great experience. The teaching, the landscaping part is what eventually would springboard me into being able to afford, though, getting a home and things, which I would have never been able to get with the income I was making. So Augusta was sure a blessing in that transition when I had a few months of actually hardly any work over that winter of 2020. And then COVID happened, the border shut down, and we started Augusta Lawn Care Mount Vernon in March. Yeah.
Wow. So I was going to say that wasn't your school in Canada. So their dollar is much less than ours. So a teacher's salary isn't usually that great anyway to start out. So you went to one of the most difficult colleges here in Washington for teaching, and you actually did end up teaching down in the States for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, I did mostly subbing and things like that. I never did actually teach my own classroom. Besides, there was a year I did full-time teaching, like practicum kind of. So I did teach, and in the thing I did actually ended up teaching full-time, not getting paid. It was part of my schooling for two quarters, so about 6 months. So I did get a lot of experience. The teacher I had was amazing. She really taught me a lot, just become a better person, how to teach kids, how to teach people in general. And I think that had a part in playing in how I approached teaching people and even landscaping and the employees that I have. And being positive is always a big thing. Pointing out the positives in kids and what they're doing, or your employees, not always focusing on the negative. So there's a lot.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a lot that I took away from that experience, and I do not regret getting my teaching degree whatsoever, because there's so many industries that you can use that teaching degree for. So
yeah, for sure. When did you guys actually name your business and start to get a little more efficient and put some systems in place, even if they were rudimentary?
It was probably when I started driving, honestly, because we had more independency then. So then by that time we were able to, I was able to drive to different places. We started that Bellingham contract, which was kind of huge for us. We thought it was great, but we were driving 25, 30 minutes still to get to that job. But that at that time, then we started, we still had the simple services. We bought a trailer when I was 16 or 17, a little utility trailer. My parents actually helped buy that at that time. So really throughout our existence at the beginning there, we just had people being blessed us with our vehicle, with our trailer, helping us. We had a landlord that we had for years actually paid for our riding lawnmower, and we paid them back monthly for that. So there were so many things and people that helped out and blessed us to start our business. To be honest, we never really, I mean, with the systems I have now in Augusta, we never really had like set systems or anything like that. To be honest, we never had a CRM. We did eventually get Invoice to Go app, which was free, the free version that we had, and we used that. So we did switch over to email invoices eventually. But cash flow was always an issue, especially over the winter. We didn't do much winter services and work. So come like February, March, it was always very tight on money. My parents, again, they couldn't afford a lot, so we would pay rent, me and Mike actually. So come February, I just remember all the time like talking to my mom and being like, I don't know if I can pay dad my rent and things like that. So that was a little stressful because we never had much, like, in our industry, there's not much work in the winter. It slows down a little bit. It just, at those points, it was like, I need to work harder and try and make more during the growing season and things. So that kind of pushed us and our work ethic. So then eventually we would work Saturdays, and then we tried to get Fridays off. So we would try to work Friday and Saturdays as well. So make more
When you
money,
say
right?
get Fridays off, you would take off from school? Like both of you would try
Yeah.
to not be going to college at that time?
Yeah. So
And
the college is flexible, right? The schedule. So we would both try to take Fridays or Mondays off completely and use that day for work.
so you tried to fit all your jobs in Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, or Friday and if we didn't, or Saturday and if we didn't get it done Monday. So Saturdays, like most people, they're chilling, they're sleeping in. We were up at 7:30, starting mowing lawns, and we would go 8-9 hours a day. At 13 and 14 years old, I was, and Mike would have been only 12 or 13. So yeah,
How
it
old
was
were
a
you
grind.
when you, yeah. How old were you guys when you started helping the family by paying rent and just trying to help support?
Yeah, I was 16. So when I got it, I started giving a little bit actually right when we started making lawn care and making money. So the first year, 14, 15 years old, just a little bit. And then at 16 or 17, he asked me to pay $500. And at the time I was like, are you kidding me? That's crazy.
It's a lot of
So
money.
it was a lot of money way back then for a 16-year-old to be paying 17-year-old. But I mean, looking in hindsight, obviously, it was beneficial for me to learn the ethic of having to make a payment every month and working harder to be able to make that payment. So I'm thankful that I did, and it also helped my dad and mom during that time of hardship, right when the market
Yeah.
crashed, the housing market crashed, and things they kind of went upside down a couple houses. So uh, really we were able to help each other. You know, my parents helped us out in many ways. Then they did good in the housing market, and that's when they could help us with utility trailer and buying some of our equipment, driving us around, spending the gas and time. My mom really gave a lot for me and Mike.
That is so
Yeah.
good. That's so good. So, if everybody looked at you now, and even for a space of time,
Mhm.
how did you guys decide to split things up or to carry on? Did you keep your business called Andy's Lawn Care, and did he start Augusta, or was it not meant to be like that at all? Did you both go to college, and then did the lawn care just kind of dissipate, and then you started it up again? How did your transition go?
Yeah, so in 2012, end of 2012, Mike was doing his MBA, I believe, and he had talked to me and decided he wanted to start his own in the spring, and that was right when I was going to get married in 2013. So in the spring of 2013, right before I got married, I bought him out basically, and had all the Annie's Lawn Care and kept Annie's Lawn Care. As my side gig through the rest of my university and first year of marriage, maybe 2 years actually, doing it on the side on Saturdays. And Mike started Augusta in the huge location right near our house in Birch Bay there. So, and I worked there for a little bit once it started, and eventually I sold back my contacts and business to Mike in 2016.
So you guys, it sound like you've always been supportive of each other's
Hmm.
businesses and
Hmm.
whatever endeavors you're trying to do. So you've kept that close relationship throughout time.
Hmm.
Now I
Yeah,
know
I
you
mean,
were, go ahead. I want to hear what you
uh,
have to say.
being both Christians and growing up in a minister's home and things like that, we were always very close. We would do everything together by God's grace, and we had a mom and dad that really loved us. Family was important. Vacation time was important. So growing up, our relationship was always close. We always depended on each other. Like I said, in the business, we split everything. So it was 50-50, everything. And gas, we split together because we would drive to school together. So we formed really a relationship of dependence on each other and support for one another. And it still is the same today. We've been able to help each other through the business I'm running for Mike, and it's been good.
Yeah. So when you were going to school, he was
Mhm.
going to school, then you split up the businesses, and we know where Mike is today, that he's successful. But when
Mhm.
he talks about the early years and the hard times, and he had I was in the office, and then we had a couple employees in the field, and it wasn't always like that. Like it was very, very difficult to pay the team. And he would tell me, "I'm really sorry that I can't pay you more.
Mhm.
Someday it'll be worth it." And it was just so humble what we were doing. And I
Mhm.
remember how embarrassed he was, but he actually came to you for a
Mm.
loan to make payroll, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe it was $15,000 or something like that. He said he came to me and said I was short on money, and at that time, me and my wife were both working, making super the most money we probably will ever make in our lives, and we had paid off our house, our first home, and so there was really an opportunity for us to save. And he came to me, and it was a no brainer. I transferred him the money right away, and he paid me back within a few weeks. So. Um, when he did I did that for him back then, and then down the road he was able to reciprocate that and has done a lot more than I ever did for him. So it's been a blessing, and yeah, we're thankful to the Lord for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we look back, we see that your relationship has been really strong. Mike has grown Augusta really big. I work along with him, alongside of him, and I know that the love he has for you is incredible. And he would do anything for you, do anything for his family. And
Mhm.
that really has translated into all the owners. So because you and he started from nothing, he
Mhm.
has a real heart for people like the franchisees who spend their last dollar, some of them, to
Yeah.
join, hoping that it'll be beneficial to them. So,
Mhm.
all that character you guys built when you were young is
Mhm.
really poured over into what we're doing for other people today.
Yeah, we just try our I mean, it was a grind for years and years, and honestly, now with Augusta, it shouldn't take someone 5 years like us to grow something that's making profit. But I'm just thankful to the Lord that He provided for us through school. We got through that, and got married at 19, 20 years old. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and you, how many kids do you have?
I now I have 3 kids, so it's a big family, and um, yeah, our hands are full of 3 kids under 5. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you go, and you're
yeah.
married.
Yep, married for 10 years actually this year. So 10 years we've been married. She grew up in the same church as me. She's always been a support to me. I'd say the huge thing for those that listen is that your spouse needs to be able to support you, understand in our industry of lawn care that there's seasons of time where it's just really super busy. And I've told people this before. What I've been able to do with my wife is try to be like a reward come July, August, and hey, we're going to take a week off or time together after we go through the spring rush. So that's been a big thing in our relationship, especially over the last 4 years, I guess. With
Hmm.
Augusta, you just have seasons of time that are more busy, and it can be a strain on a relationship. But when your spouse is understanding of that, it makes it a lot easier. And yeah, honestly, my wife has also been a support on the mental side because, for those listening on lawn care, it's a little stressful. It can be depressive, or with payroll being tight sometimes.
Hmm.
So with my wife always being supportive and able to give you another way to look at it, always encouraging. So that was huge.
Yeah, how have you found it in Augusta for, like you said, it wouldn't have taken 5 years. So do you feel like people that have joined have it so that it buys them time?
Um, yeah. So like for me, like I spoke at a thing about a month ago for the Augusta franchisees, and for me, it only took us 4 months to be profitable, honestly. After 3 months of really pouring in marketing and things like that. So 5 years is way too long. Like you're never going to be able to survive going
Yeah.
5 years without being profitable. So for me, I'd say 3, 4 months we started being profitable, and then we were profitable every month after that in the first year. So just baby steps would be my big thing from my experiences, not growing too quickly, staying simple. But during that first year, I was solo for the first couple of months, and that was rough. Like
Hmm.
anyone that starts out, they're gonna definitely be feeling like quitting, not wanting to go on, things like that. But just keep pushing forward. And then I would say the big hurdle or the big change for me in the business was having that second person, because I was always used to me and Mike working
Yeah.
together, right? So we would always have each other's back. If I was sick, he would go do the jobs. If he was sick, I would do the jobs. If one of us wanted to go somewhere and travel for that weekend. So we had each other's back. So when you're by yourself, it's really tough. But as soon as I got that second employee and we had a second truck with the trailer, he did all the projects. I did all the mowing to keep that quality up. That's when I noticed that the business went from 13,000 or so a month to 26, 27 a month. So, and I also felt like less stressed because I could throw jobs at my other employee. And he did a great job and had high quality standard for a few months there, and we made really good money. So, yeah, I'd say that just keeping it simple though and slowly growing, as
Hmm.
we'll probably get to and talk a little bit about
Yeah.
down the road. Just trying to become $1 million business is not for everybody.
Yeah.
Sometimes like this year we've stayed around 350 or four, like 350, 375. Will end of year will be our revenue, and being super profitable is way better than having a $1 million business and barely making it in your profit margins and stuff. So.
Yeah, to give people a timeline though, 2020, like you said, during COVID, the border closed down. So that
Hmm.
basically, immediately cut off your income and the
Hmm.
teaching.
Hmm.
And I remember where Mike and I were both standing in our shop, working 12, 14 hours a day. And Mike was like, we should start another location.
Hmm.
And we just talked about the pros, cons, like if we should do that. And then we were like, well, who would run it? And we both just looked at each other. Tim would
Hmm.
be amazing. And so we brought you on to start that location as
Hmm.
as a GM,
Hmm.
really. But that's like crazy that you would
Hmm.
just put somebody to start an Augusta. But
Yeah.
we had barely started command center, and so you got our first command center employee all to your lonesome,
Yep.
and you got the prime treatment of
Yeah.
having Lonnie at the beginning.
Yeah.
So you also have the unusual experience and can speak to this because you were a GM running the
Hmm.
whole thing by yourself,
Hmm.
and Mike handed you the reins. We didn't have the systems that we have now, but he
Hmm.
completely trusted you to run that location.
Hmm.
And then as you got, you'll be able to really help others by talking about this. As the business grows, it's totally different when you become an owner. So
Hmm.
you ended up buying that location from Mike. And if
Correct.
you could speak to the differences for people, because there's employees that rise up in a business and we see qualities of a GM in them, and we
Hmm.
make them a GM and they want to be an owner. So at
Hmm.
Augusta, we let them, after 2 years, they can start a location. But what would you say to somebody who is a GM and they want to be an owner? Do you feel like they should wait a certain amount of time and stay a GM to
Yeah.
learn more of the systems before they take on the burden of ownership? And how did you find the burden of ownership as compared to being a GM?
Yeah, so definitely, like you said, I would definitely recommend a person not just hop from GM to owner. It's a great thought, it's a great idea, and this isn't to squash anyone's desire, but going from GM to becoming a owner there's huge burdens. So financially, first of all, I would say a person should not even consider going out on their own financially until they have about 50, $60,000, 40, maybe 40. If you're conservative and you're going to save money and you already got your own shop space, maybe you could do it with the one truck and things for 20, 30,000. But you've got to have that money set aside. In reality, whether that's through an investment like family or someone in giving you that money, like it was for me and Mike way back in the day, if someone blesses you like that. But for being a GM, you have the stability, and for a family to have that income is huge. And even like I said, by being the GM for 1 year, I was able to get a loan, right, for my first house. So there's definitely pros to being a GM and slowly building yourself into that role of maybe ownership. I think it's good the 2 years. If you talk to someone like Nick Reed or something, I'm almost sure they would say it would have been better if they had been a GM. There wasn't that opportunity at the time, but to slowly transition
Yeah,
instead
yeah,
of the pain, he's had to go through a lot of pain and learning. Definitely in his when he started his company, but by being in the system or being at Augusta for 2 years, that definitely gives you time to understand the systems for sure, but being on the management side is another whole part, having to do the sales if you've never done that, estimates, videos, talking to clients, follow-ups. It's a whole nother step in the learning part of being a general manager. And GMs can make or break a business, to be honest.
Definitely.
You can make it really profitable if they're a working GM. If they're not, if they're lazy or they're not going to put in the extra, or we're not willing to put the extra hard work, they can definitely crumble a business, and even a really big one, if there's not proper management and support that they give to their employees. So becoming an owner for me, I basically paid for my first year of what I made at Augusta. I paid to Mike. So it was a lot of money. It was a big sacrifice, but I felt we had made 60 or 70,000 in profit the year before when I did that transition. So I was like, this is a no-brainer. So I did it, and then we'll probably get into a little bit, but I just grew it too fast. So again, just slowly growing would be the best way to do it. Having 2 trucks, maxing out your capacity, but also being aware not just of their capacity of vehicle, what you can do, but also mentally, your mental capacity, your personal capacity, family, what they can handle. So there's a lot of areas when it comes to being an owner, whereas a general manager, there's not the financial stress. There's not other worries in the business besides, honestly, as a general manager, even to this day, I kind of act like and think like an owner. Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to save money. I train my people to treat equipment right. I pretty much do everything, to be honest. So, but having that mindset it takes a special person. Not everyone's like that. Some people just look at, oh, I could be the GM and go from being in the field to being a GM and I'll get a pay raise, and that's great. But you've got to also be willing to take a step up in learning and doing something to make the business move forward and be more profitable. So.
Yeah. So you mentioned there Nick Reed. So he went straight from being an employee to an owner. And a big component of that was having to deal with people in as employees, because you've never led employees. You've never even hired an employee. And being a GM gives you practice. To practice being an owner. And what I've noticed about Augusta that's really good is they put a GM in place and then they just let them run with it. Like they let Mike trust them to spend the money however they think, to budget however they think. And so when you became an owner, the stresses of the employees, the trucks, the equipment, and all of that, it changed because it's not on somebody else's dime. Now it's your own money. And I see this a lot with franchisees. Like you were talking about the seasons. Well, there's actually seasons in emotions and the highs and lows that owners feel. And it happens all the time when we get it. You have a great spring season. And then you get to like July and August, and where we live, and a lot of the franchisees have this too. They get to July and August and there's hardly any growth. And it's a little harder. Customers are going to want to go to bi-weekly. And I see that it happens a lot right there where they want to quit.
Yeah.
And
burnout.
I think I think it was August, wasn't it, that you were feeling like there's no work. How can you share with us what that was like for you when you got to that lean time?
So that was when I owned the business. I had 4 employees. I had 4 trucks. I was basically only running, honestly, 2 trucks going out. So there was always like 2 trucks sitting at the shop. And we had a car that I would use for estimates. So at that time, stress is because of the financial stress. Then you have 4 employees. And my mistake was, because I'm a nice person and I don't want to hurt people, is that I don't want to let them go. So that was the fine line. Literally, I have the same guy working with me now that worked with me a few years ago during that slower season, and he literally could have done the work of 2.5 of the people. So I should have fired 1 or 2 people, to be honest, or let them go and say, hey, maybe in September I'll call you, something like that. But the stress, it became so stressful on me, was to try and close jobs. And then you're lowering the margin of profit because you're trying to go lower on jobs to close them. And it just is terrible, because then it just took one job it was a sod job. I was like, oh, it's $6,000. We're going to make huge. And it took us like 60 to 80 budgeted hours. Like we were way over budget. Like we lost so much money, and it was right during the heat of the season that year. And my employees just got drained, burned out, and that started a trickle down effect for them mentally, leaving, getting hurt, and it quickly went down to just one girl that was left by September, October. Yeah, September. There was only one person left,
Yeah.
and I
So
lost my yeah.
the burden of command is really heavy when you
Yeah,
have employees and things. So,
yeah.
can you share with us a little bit what it was like in the very beginnings of Command Center and trying to work with them? And then you have the different angle of us seeing it from the very beginning and
Mm,
having somebody to yourself all the time to help with everything. That's basically like somebody owning it and having an office assistant to help with
yeah,
everything. And then as
right.
command has grown, we are in our baby stages, like building systems, failing, building them. And Augusta was in that stage too. And people will look
Mm,
back years from now and everything's systems are on place for them. And
mm,
share a little bit of your frustration to go from one person to now
yeah,
all these people. And the systems were not in place yet for us either.
yeah.
How was that for you?
That was pretty stressful, honestly. It was one of the bigger stresses in my company because I was so used to, like you said, having that one person that knew service autopilot was what we used inside and out. She knew how to get things done. I would literally send her a message, and within minutes, it was done. Everything was set within minutes because we had less franchisees at that time. So there was way less needed for support. And Lonnie was my first person. I was the first one that did full service. So I got, yeah, like you said, kind of special treatment because I probably Mike's brother, his location. So we want it to be successful. But having that one person's kind of set the standard for me,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
I got used to everything being handled a certain way. So the frustrations did come in that second year when I kind of took ownership and it was like things aren't getting done. Emails are taking 2 or 3 hours to respond to. So it did start to get a little friction there and a little bit harder. But the full service that we were doing definitely also, sorry to go back, when she started doing full service, it took a lot off my plate. So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of full service command center. And I tell people if they want to take another step in their business, whether, yeah, if it's Augusta and franchise, that the full service command center will pay off. And as you go through time, like I have, you find ways to save in your bill and do simple tasks that Lonnie would have been doing for me that I can do now when you got the time. Yeah, it was a hard transition. I'm kind of a like hands-on, want to do it myself.
Yeah.
I think Mike's kind of the same, where we want to be
Yeah.
in control of it and to let go of something like your email or let go of invoicing, things like that. It's like it's hard to let go. But
And because you're
yeah,
both type A people, and I would say a lot of business owners are, or people that want to run their own thing and not be an
mm-hmm.
employee. If you were doing it yourself, you'd be doing it now. It would be
Yep,
happening that fast. You would close a job and it would be on the schedule, like within hours, or as soon as you got home that night, you'd be following up with customers. So when you have other people that are handling your stuff, they don't always feel the same urgency and the stress that an owner has. So
yeah,
it's a matter of at Command Center also teaching people that some franchisees gave their last dollar literally
yeah,
to be a part of what we're doing and how important it is
yeah,
to have the same urgency to help them, you know.
for sure, for sure.
So the listener is going to wonder how did you end up not being an owner anymore and being a GM? You can just tell them briefly so that we can tell like where you are today.
Yeah, so full year of being owner after I bought it from Mike, we did really good. We made 375 ish with a 20% margin of profit, so 60, 70,000 that I
Just a
took
second.
home.
How does that work? Does the owner, being Mike, and you're the first corporation, how did he pay you or incentivize you? Did he pay you salary or did he pay
Salary.
you something? Okay. And then did you
Yes.
make a portion of profit?
Yeah, so I got profit sharing too. So, like I said, the first quarter, obviously, you're not profitable. Sometimes second quarter, but we became really profitable second quarter, second 3 months, I guess, during that summer, that first summer. So I made a lot of profit there. My salary though is definitely low. Was definitely lower than it is today for his GMs. But I did make really good profits in that first year, and that helped pay for the location going into second year. And then we started reaping the benefits of the profit in the second year because it was my business, right? The failure I made was I didn't pay myself. So I would just randomly take money. So I've told Nick Reed, I've told others, like, you've got to pay yourself first, to have, or else you're going to feel like you're just draining yourself and having nothing when you've put in all this effort. So I would encourage someone to have some kind of pay for yourself, even if it's not a lot, knowing you're taking temporary pain for long-term gains. So
yeah, that's wise. That's wise. So how did it end up? Mike ended up going back to owner. And how long was it before you came back as a GM, or were you with Augusta the whole time?
So I was with Augusta. I didn't really finish the story there, but going into that last spring, the next spring after making 375, making all this profit, I was like, wow, we could do something here. So I go into the spring of the 2022 thinking I'm going to grow this thing to $1 million. That's basically where my problem started. Was thinking like that, to be honest. So it's great to think that you can make $1 million and have a huge company, but it takes a lot more capacity. And I basically drained myself in all areas, mentally, financially. Bought 3 or 4 trucks within a month, bought 2 trailers. Like, we're going to go huge. We got a ton of contacts from a garden show that we did. Like, we had estimates pouring in. I think there was like 150 or 200 estimates in 1 month. And I was like, oh my goodness. But we hired 8 people. So I went from managing 4, right, to 8, 9 people. And it was just crazy on steroids is all that I can explain it as. And so basically that put pressure on me financially to then basically ask Mike for some money to make payroll. And then it was like, hey, this isn't going to work. Like, there's no money, and it just continues to drain. So Mike took over in May of 2022. And that was probably the hardest time of my life because it was like I had built this business up over 2 years. We had made 60, 70,000. Like, if I had just gotten back in the systems, I feel like we would have been really profitable. But yeah, the damage was done, and we just live and learn from those mistakes we made. And I did take 6 months off. I didn't honestly have much work during that time. So that was really humbling as a husband too, right? And you're going through that time. But by God's grace, November rolled around and they needed another GM. The GM that had helped take over my location was wanting to step away. So met with Chuck, the regional manager, and we just hit the ground running in December. It was crazy, though, to see the state of the business that I had started. And to go from 100 plus recurring modes, we were down to like 25 recurring customers, 30 when I came back on. So it was really bad. It was really bad. It
Very
was
disheartening.
Yeah, it was pretty depressing, honestly. But through the winter time, I really focused on getting things back to getting things in line for our spring of success. And to move into that time, one of the biggest blessings, I'll say it, and maybe he'll watch this, is one of the guys that left my company came back. And in February, he reached out and was like, I need a reference for a job. And I was like, well, I became the general manager again of Augusta. And he's like, no way. So I talked to Mike, and Mike was like, let's give this guy, will it be his third chance, really, at Augusta. And to be perfectly honest, the guy has been a godsend, and he works his tail off. He uses P4P. He's making like $1,000 a paycheck, right around there every time. So he's making $30+ an hour every paycheck he works. And so that has really helped me this year. I don't need as many employees. I can be really profitable, and he's getting the benefit of P4P. So
so something interesting about that is he had some struggles and working in the heat and all of that. He loved Mike's content. I remember when Mike met him the first time, he was just like, wow, this guy's amazing. But we all have low points in our life. And I know he had quit at one point, and you let him come back. And so through all the transition and things, he was then completely out of the picture when you left and before you came back. And we hear Mike talk about empowering your GMs, and when you give them the responsibility, let them run the company, let them run with it. And because that had happened before, Mike and I were like, no way, no way. This person can't come back. Mike had helped them too. And then we just decided, well, we empower the GMs. We
Mm-hmm.
tell them that they can do what they want. And so we're actually just going to let the GM, which is Tim,
Mm-hmm.
decide. And if he
Yeah.
feels that's the best thing, then we will support that.
Yeah.
And look at how good it's
Yeah,
gone.
it's been great. Yeah, it's been really good. And I would say too, is because we both kind of had the same thing, right? Where we both left Augusta, we went through low points. I can kind of relate to the same things he's gone through with his family stresses. So it's been a good relationship working together. And then the biggest thing I would say is you got to know your team members. And
Yeah.
for him, it's working on his own. So being able to let him run with P4P, let him do 10 to 14 budgeted hours a day of work, just throwing everything at him and letting him make the money. So that's been huge. But on the relationship side, just having the same kind of, we are getting a second chance at working here. So we wanted to prove that we could do it. So basically, we've proven that with hard work, letting him work by himself a lot most of the time, he can make the most. The company obviously makes really good. So yeah, and that's less stress for me because I'm not having to manage more people, right? So if you can find the game, like the big thing for me is finding that good employee. And I
Mhm.
think I saw one of the franchisees just let go a couple people, and he's having to rehire now. Kevin Fairbairn, I think, and he's having to rehire people because he fired people that were great people, but they were just not letting the bit, like they were holding it back. And that's one of
Mhm.
the hardest things to do. And
Yep.
then rehire. But when the money, there's money to be made is when you rehire. Whoever you rehire, if they're a really, really great worker, that can save you a lot of headaches down the road. So for him, he was already in Augusta. He knew service autopilot system. He knew how we dispatch jobs, he knew everything. So it was easy. It was like from February, let's go. And then halfway through the year, we actually got another person that worked in Augusta. So my success that I have found is people that have worked, they both had 2+ years of experience. The big mistake I made when I lost my company was I hired people that couldn't speak English, which I should have stayed to that standard. I slipped there. I let people that smoked. So that was another mistake I made. So I'm not against those people with that kind of lifestyle, but I would just encourage that you have a standard and you stick to it. When your handbook says you have a standard and you don't abide by those standards, it really causes confusion. But for us this year, the success has been having 2 employees that have both worked in Augusta had for 1+ year. And they both stayed through the whole season now, and they're both hard workers, both making amazing P4P, and I don't have to worry. I dispatch the jobs for them that day, and I know they're going to get done. So it's huge. It's been a blessing for sure.
You mentioned that you had 8 employees, and I know that Mike talks about like we're going to go into spring. You want to think of overhiring, and people don't listen, right? They
Yeah.
think we don't need all these people. We can get all the people, Mike says, but then you can go after it and get the business. But
Mm-hmm.
you hired 8, and was that because you were thinking, I have this plan for $1 million? We're
Mm-hmm.
getting all this work coming in. I'm gonna overhire because I need these
Mm-hmm.
8 people. Is that kind of the way you were thinking? Because my goal is the
Absolutely.
million.
Yeah, so my whole thing, we actually had a landscape conference in January, and Mike was saying this is going to be one of the hardest springs to hire people. You've got to overhire. So I took that literal and I hired a bunch of people. The problem is I wanted them really quickly, and I had 6 trucks now. Yeah, 6 trucks, and I had all those estimates, like you said, coming in mid-February. So I hired people that didn't have 2 years of experience. Again, they're smoking. Like the standards were all over the place. I made a huge mistake. Hired 3 people that were all friends, which I highly
Mhm.
recommend you don't do, because if one of them gets hurt or offended, the whole 3 turn into a
Yeah,
mutiny.
yeah,
So there's just a few of the lessons I have learned. But over hiring can also be a burden because you're as a owner stressed to get the jobs.
yep,
So I think the if you're quick to hire, you also got to be quick to fire. And I never got that message. Like I
yeah.
never took that in. I overhired and I kept employees that killed the profits of the company, and ultimately financially wasn't sustainable. So
Yeah.
yep.
I was going to ask something else about that. we talk about the highs and lows for business owners. So
Hmm.
after conference, a lot of us go away on that high. And
Hmm.
that high, because you're planning things, it's called grandiosity. And
Hmm.
so you got all these big dreams and you're going for it. And then your message that you gave to the franchisees at training was in that high, you
Hmm.
you grew too fast.
Yes, that's correct. So you just go way too fast. You have big goals, like you said. You get all hyped up, I would say, and it's not a bad thing to be hyped up, but when you're a Type A person, you get overhyped.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
it leaves it goes so high. The only way to go is go down, and it usually goes way up and then way down. And that's where mental issues happen, and people have health issues, and that's what happened for me. And it was a tough time. It was a rough time, but I learned a lot. That's all I can say is God brought me through, and I can now help owners. And I like I did it last month and help a lot of new franchisees. And I believe my story is unique. I was a general manager. I became an owner. I lost my business, and now I'm back with Augusta. So it's a tough thing to say that you lost your business and you lost because you had pride in that. And I still, at times it's like, oh man, like this could have been mine like this year. And it's like, I could have made 140,000, 150 grand if I had stick with it. But looking back, like looking at it now, it's like God doesn't maybe want me to be this is just me. And for those that are listening, maybe God doesn't want me to be the business owner and have this huge company and a couple companies because he has a work for me down the road in other
Yeah.
areas. And that's kind of where God's leading is to do mission work and to help people in ministry. So I'm staying with Augusta doing the general manager role. It's very beneficial, less stress financially. It's just stable. My wife is all about stability, and the business life wasn't for her. So I chose my wife over business. So that's just me.
Man. Yeah. So, what would you say to the person the franchisee, anybody who goes crazy in their business? They have vision, they go after all that. But what do they do when they hit bottom after that? Like, how do they talk themselves through that? Like, I feel like a failure. Like you said, this could have all been mine. So, what
Yeah.
would you say to them when they hit the bottom? And also, going to that point, um, do you feel like you were staying in the systems, or when somebody's on that level and they're going up, do they think I that part about the growth of the franchisees? I don't know if you've heard me tell the story before about the phases of your relationship, like when they grow, when they buy in, it's like the honeymoon
Yes.
phase.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then they get to that part where I got this, I don't need
Don't
anybody's
need you.
help,
Yeah.
I'm so successful. Did you then start to push up against the systems that are there to keep us in line and feel like you didn't need that also?
Yeah, so I did, and I felt there was no way possible for me to have the command center involved in my account pretty much at all to grow my business over a certain amount. And I think I have heard Mike say when you want to go to 800, a million, it is good to have an office person
Yeah,
doing at least part time. So for me, though, it was like, hey, I want to grow this thing way up here, and so I hired people, and then one of the girls is still in the command center to this day. But I did hire my own office person, completely cut off everything from full service command center just to save money. Well, it didn't save me money.
yeah,
In the short term, it saved me a little bit, but it didn't. It just added to the stress of the company because now I'm taking all the calls. I bought multiple phones for my estimators, my managers I put in place. So I just put too many levels to the company and added complexity and not staying simple. And I think that's the big thing at Augusta. We stay with simple services and we be really profitable instead of having this kind of ego mindset of wanting to do big things and show people pictures of great things we're doing. It's like, no, I can just show them I did a little bark job, or cleanup, and I made 300-400 bucks on a little day
yeah,
job in
yeah,
profit. In
exactly.
profit. So that's really where we're at. I can send out Brennan and do $1,200-1,300 in revenue, and he's made great P for P, 300-400 bucks in a day. So, and
That's phenomenal.
he's just done mowing and maybe a little bit of cleanup work on the side of his route, and everyone wins in that situation. So I definitely have found that when I got out of the system of trying to do other things and buy garden beds to sell to make more money.
Yeah.
Just different things. I got the shiny syndrome,
Yeah.
like look at these things and want to do all this stuff. So live and learn again. But yeah, that's what I would say to that is
That's so
don't make,
helpful because it's
yeah,
so humiliating. A lot of people lose their business and they have to start over and they feel like such a failure. Like, why should I even try?
yeah.
But it's so awesome that you got to come back and really run a business as your own again
Hmm.
and bring
Yep.
it back from nothing. And I think at this time, you and Brennan together by yourselves have brought the profit. What are you guys at? We're in this summer kind of. What were you guys at your highest monthly?
As far as income,
Yeah,
as far as revenue, we made 52. This is crazy. We made $52,000 with just 3 employees in 1 month. So
mind blowing.
that was we were both working. I was doing 12, 14 budgeted hours and estimates. Well, not every day, but yeah, working 12 to 14.
Yeah,
Brennan was doing like 16 budgeted hours a day. And then our third guy was good at hardscaping that we had at that time. So we had two big, like simple hardscaping, not huge, just simple wall that we made. And we made like, yeah, $8,000 on that one project. So it wasn't abnormal. I would not tell anyone that that's your, like, we made, yeah, it would have been 16,000 per one of us working. So that's not really sustainable. Like it worked for 1 month, and I think we were around 40 or so the rest of the year, 30 to 40 we've been at. So
that is phenomenal. But like you
yeah,
said, it does come down to the people you have
yep,
working for you.
yep,
Because you also know in planning that could change tomorrow, right?
yeah,
He's sick, you got to get somebody else, and the whole
yep,
dynamic would change then. But how do you keep yourself steady now? Because you
hmm,
had this chance, you come back, and
hmm,
what a comeback. I mean, you
hmm,
guys have blown it out of the water, and
yep,
it's been so successful. So, how do you keep yourself centered now? Like
yeah,
knowing with appreciation that it's because you do have this amazing employee who works like you.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so you're not working with lesser people or have to have two or three to even equal him, which we
yeah,
had somebody that worked for Augusta like that. And they could work just like you and Brennan. And
hmm,
to
hmm,
have average employees after
yeah,
that is really
tough,
an eye opener. So
yeah,
you understand that you'd probably have to hire two
yep.
people to take his
Two
place.
people. Yep, two people for sure. So yeah, I'm just blessed. Like that's all I
Yeah.
can say. But at the same time, in your back of your mind, you got to enjoy the highs, but also realize that somebody he could move tomorrow, and I can't let that crush me. And in the
Yes.
past, I'll be honest, that's what it is. It's like, oh man, we're like I always like we're making good money, everything is going great, and I get fixated on that, and I don't
Hmm.
realize, hey, this could go down or go lower, and I don't prepare myself mentally. So when it does happen, it just crumbles, like it crumbles you, and that's you got to have realistic expectations, and keep yourself balanced, I would say, in
Yeah,
so
and if
many
you're a really
areas.
positive person, like you said, very kind to people, it's
Hmm.
almost like you feel like it's a personal attack when somebody
Yeah,
leaves, and
yeah,
it's really not. They just have something else going on in their life, but we
yeah,
we want to succeed and we want to
yep,
help everybody and help our employees.
yeah.
So
And then
go
you had
ahead.
mentioned there was one part I didn't answer, and one thing I would suggest is that you never cut out support people in your life and family. And like what happens when you hit that super low is you've got to have your person. So for me, it's my
Yeah.
wife or my brother Mike or my dad, who's a pastor now, to have that support person to go meet for coffee, or that you can call, or have a group on WhatsApp like we do for the Washington State franchisees, where we can, hey, this is how we're feeling, this is what we're going through, can you help? Or like if Augusta Nation, you have that community feeling. And that's really where the value is, I feel. You get different perspectives, you learn new things just in those daily posts on Augusta franchise group and Augusta Nation. So for me, that's huge for me, because when I went back and left Augusta there at the end, after I lost my business, you're back to by yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the hardest things. You go from a team and you're managing a team of people to by yourself. And that's also, like Nick Reed would say, when he started after being with the Bellingham shop, huge company, and then by himself. It's one of the hardest mental things to go through. So you just got to be prepared. be ready when you go from a team of people that you work with to by yourself starting a business. There's nothing glamorous about it.
Nope.
You just got to keep grinding. So that's
Yeah,
what I
so
would
you
encourage
you
people.
would say if people don't have the support system you have and they're
Yeah.
all alone, they don't have any family, that if they turn to Augusta Nation, or they don't even have they're not even a part of Augusta Nation, this
hmm
is the thing they miss out on.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's huge. There's young guys that started franchisees that family didn't support them, and but they had Augusta, right? They had us to help them. So it's kind of like a brotherhood, a family. And if they don't have family, and they do have family now. So for me, it's I got all my supports. It's just when you go into those high highs, you don't want to listen to the people that are telling you the opposite of what
Yeah.
you think or want. So that's when you got to take a step back. And this is what I would recommend: take a step back, maybe take a day off and be like, I just need to clear my mind. And really, you've got to know who your people are and listen to their advices and abide by it, do
Yeah.
it. So,
I appreciate you being candid, because there's so many that we've seen even in Augusta Nation, and we would say on every coaching call, like, you need to raise prices, or you need to do
yeah,
this, and they never did, and they ended up losing their business and leaving Augusta
yeah,
Nation and didn't
yeah,
realize what they had. And so to have somebody like you tell, I was way up here and then I was way down here and I lost my
mm,
business, and look at the hope that it gives
yep,
other people, that if they're humble enough, they can come
yeah,
back and do amazing things.
yeah,
And I love that your perspective about, maybe I'm not meant to be an owner, but I
mm,
have this other vision of something I need to do.
mm-hmm,
And if I just stay a GM some
yep.
on somebody else's dime, maybe I can make some of my dreams come true.
Yeah, and I know God provides, so He provided this job for me. There's a reason why I'm here. It's helped me, like I said, get my first or my second home mortgage, and if I keep staying steady, I believe God will bless me and be
Yeah,
able
I
to
do
do
too.
more. So
I do too. So,
yeah.
wrapping up today, can you share a little bit of the things that you listen to from a business level, from a personal level? We're very careful about who we allow in Augusta Nation. And I'm sure
hmm
you found at the summit that the quality of people, you're like, whoa, they're like me. And, hearing people's
Yeah.
story, it was just like instant connection for a lot of the
Yeah.
franchisees who had never met. So, what is it about you, and what is it that you feed on that makes you the person you are in Augusta Nation? And
mhm.
what do you listen to help yourself through business and your personal life?
Yeah, so I mainly just support like groups in Facebook and things like that. I learn from different landscaping companies or different people in those groups, honestly. I also think outside the box. That's how I am. As far as content, I listen to Mike and I read my Bible. So that's where my wisdom comes from. As far as conference, I really liked Brian Fullerton, I believe is his name.
Mm-hmm.
He just brought a good perspective on your marriage and having a balance in your life as far as family, because I could relate to that because
Mm-hmm.
pretty much almost lost my family, my business, everything. So having a good check balance and that was really great. And then I really like the energy of the Dirt Life guys from,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, Alberta or somewhere up Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
So they had some great energy and content. So just really applicable things. There's a lot of people that, yeah, I go to church regularly. So we get different supports there
Mm-hmm.
through my marriage and different things. But as far as business, there I don't really read a lot of books. I listen to audiobooks sometimes. Elevate is one book that I've listened to, Habits of Successful People. But yeah, for the most part, by the time you have, I mean, family and going to church, things like that, there's not a lot of time to read per se. But audiobooks is a huge thing, and we do have it at our company where people can listen to that podcasts. Um, I don't know if you've heard of Clark Howard, but I listen
Mm-hmm.
to all of his podcasts. So I would recommend a person listen to him. He's got different advice on just regular things and financial things. I used to be a big fan of Dave Ramsey. uh, he's, I've kind of stopped listening to him, to be honest. So there's just different, yeah, you got to look at the voices that are speaking into your life, and you want to be
Mm-hmm.
like those people. So to be honest, I've really zoned in, and I want to just listen to people that I want to model or be like. And that's my brother, the Lord Jesus, my dad, and not too many other people besides that. So
Mm-hmm.
basically family, and the big one is having a relationship with the Lord. I feel like has helped me in my business and kept me. So yeah, if you don't have Jesus, if you don't have the Lord in your life, I don't know how you're making it. So if you're listening to this, I would encourage you to serve the Lord and find a good church and support. It's a huge thing. So
That's awesome. So as we wrap up, do you have a quote that you'd like to share with us, or more than one if you're like me and you got a whole bunch?
um I don't know who said it, but my father-in-law, who passed away in January, he had a quote: "Never, never, never give up." And it's simple. It's not very complex, but through all my trials, through everything I've gone through, I would just say never, never give up. If it's in your business, if it's in your marriage is rocky, or your kids' relationships, work relationships, just never, never give up. Just around the corner, there could be hope. There is hope,
Yeah,
and a new day just takes the sun rising on a new day, and everything can change. So
I love it.
yeah.
I love it.
Yep.
Well, thank you for your time today. Much, much
Yep.
appreciated. I think your story is going to help a lot of people stay balanced, really get balanced and
Yeah.
stay balanced. It's much appreciated.
Yep. Thank you so much, for and everyone that listens.
Yeah.